Despite its security challenges over the years, the Kaduna state government is making very ambitious moves to reposition the economy of the northwest state. Authorities say it has attracted over $2.6 billion of local and foreign investments to the state through its annual Economic and Investment Summit, which started about 6 years ago. On this episode of Special Report, we'll chronicle the evolution of the Kaduna State Investment Summit, also known as KAD INVEST. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Kaduna State, a former political capital of northern Nigeria and one of the 7 states in the northwestern region. Kaduna State is a trade center and a major transportation hub as a gateway to northern Nigeria, an important intersection on Nigeria's Cape Gauge railway network, which allows for rapid urbanization since 2005. The region was a major industrial center manufacturing products like textiles, machinery, steel, aluminium, petroleum products and bearings. However, the textile industry has been on the decline due to the recent Chinese imports and factory closures caused by years of neglect. Agriculture is also a major economic booster in Kaduna State. The state has an inland dry port with its main agricultural export being cotton, peanut, sorghum and ginger. Automobile manufacturing and warehouse remains an integral part of Kaduna's economy. The state also houses one of Nigeria's 4 main oil refineries, the Kaduna Refining and Petrochemical Company, KRPC. Under the present administration of Governor Nasir El-Rufai, the infrastructural network in the city are currently being developed.
Kaduna State.
At the assumption of office in 2015, Governor Nasir El-Rufai made a quick assessment of the economic state of Kaduna State, looking at how best to salvage the state and raising its gross domestic product to attract investors both locally and overseas. A year after, Governor Nasir El-Rufai made a key decision to establish the Kaduna Investment Promotion Agency, KADIPA, making it a one-stop shop agency for investors where questions about investment opportunities are asked. Then came a very robust board which worked closely with the development partners in building capacity, which gave birth to the maiden edition of the Kaduna Economic and Investment Summit, known as KAD INVEST 1.0, held from the 6th to the 7th of April 2016. With the theme, Let's Move Kaduna into the Global Economy.
I'm happy to have you all here.
A 2-day KAD INVEST 2.0 also held in the state from Wednesday the 5th to Thursday the 6th of April 2017 with the theme, Making Kaduna the Investment Destination of Choice.
There are 23 local governments in Kaduna State. The violence that has affected the state since we came in is in 5 local governments at most. 2 local governments in northern Kaduna, Birnungwari and Giwa, where there has been issues of cattle rustling and rural banditry. That has been that has not attracted as much by way of headlines as the one in southern Kaduna, because the one in southern Kaduna unfortunately is colored by religious and ethnic lenses. So, people tend to get emotional and the headlines are driven from that perspective. But every day investors are coming here. Every day diplomats are coming to Kaduna. Bill Gates flew into Kaduna. He didn't fly to Abuja and drive to Kaduna. He flew into Kaduna. His wife visited this year. He visited last year. I mean, if Kaduna was as dangerous or as unsafe as it appears, the richest man in the world would not come here. His wife would not certainly come here. So there is a difference between what is out there by way of headlines and the reality. And the opportunities here are just, too many and too much for anyone to ignore Kaduna.
The Development Bank of Nigeria.
In 2018, the Economic Forum had grown, that it attracted investors from the world over. KAD INVEST 3.0 held in April that year with the theme Partnership for Development, and it focused on building human capital.
Particularly to subnational finance.
The 4th edition of the summit came up in 2019. It focused on expanding investment frontiers to enable Kaduna State establish a reputation for ease of doing business and position itself as a welcoming home for investors in agriculture, tractor assembly, solar power, and mass housing. In spite of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, The 5th edition of the Kaduna Economic and Investment Summit KAD INVEST 5.0, held virtually with the theme Infrastructure, Industrialization and Innovation. Participants from all around the world sat in the comfort of their homes and logged on to join the conversation.
Kaduna indigenes make up 5% of Nigeria's population.
Unlike the 2020 edition, this year's KAD INVEST 6.0 physically opened at Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Hall. The summit dwelt on towards a sustainable, knowledge-based economy.
Arrival into the venue of His Excellency the Vice President.
On the 6th edition of Kaduna State's Annual Economic and Investment Summit, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, Chief Executives, Captains of Industry, representatives of various agencies, and other dignitaries were in attendance. The authorities showcased Kaduna to domestic and international spectators as a major investment destination in Africa, including tourist attractions across the state.
You must all be commended for the consistency that has been a strong characteristic of your administration. KAD Invest has been held annually over the past 6 years and has evolved over time from the launch of the development plan to the unveiling of the Kaduna Infrastructure Master Plan and the Urban Renewal Project. So this summit has become a platform not just to market Kaduna but Nigeria as a compelling business destination for investment. I must also say that your efforts are clearly positioned to benefit maximally from the critical infrastructure development that Mr. President has committed himself to single-mindedly since the inception of our administration. So the construction of the AKK pipeline would enable the ready availability of gas for power and industries in Kaduna, while the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano rail line and the Abuja to Kano highway will definitely ease the movement of goods and people. For power, the Ministry of Power and the ADB are working together to ensure that construction starts on the Mando to New Kano 3030 kV line enhancement. And of course, your efforts with Airtel on broadband expansion, broadband connectivity expansion, will benefit from our economic sustainability plan and the broadband connectivity for all by 2023. These federal government investments in these axes, complemented by the policies and investments of the Kaduna state government, will catalyze an economic hub that will create millions of jobs and opportunities. And I think you've much more eloquently presented the case for Kaduna State as the economic hub for the future job creation and also for the future of economic development, not just here in this zone, but also across the country. As you are aware, one of our programs in the Economic Sustainability Plan is the Solar Niger program, which is aimed at providing 5 million homes with electricity through solar systems and mini-grids. In this particular regard, the NASENI, the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, is being repositioned to incubate local end-to-end solar manufacturing and fabrication, given our country's increasing demand for solar panels. So I think there is room for synergy here also with the remarkable work that the Kaduna state government is doing with Blue Camel. From this project, we can see street lights all around the city, and Kaduna built solar street lights popping up everywhere, including Yola, Jos, Owerri, Gombe, amongst other places. I'm sure that with what is happening, we may be seeing the cusp of developing a solid solar production supply chain right here in this state.
As you increase the knowledge intensity of your economy, as you rely more on human capital, as you rely more on intellectual capacity and less on natural resources, you reduce poverty and increase per capita income. And that is what you're supposed to do. Now, globally, work is being redefined. 30 to 40% of workers in developed economies will need to significantly upgrade their skills and reskill into new occupations by 2030. What are the major drivers of this redefinition? There's digitization and remote working, which we have seen even here with COVID. There is increased automation and artificial intelligence. Very soon, the robots will take over the work in many countries, and those that will have jobs will be those who are able to operate the robots or manufacture the robots or service the robots. And you have decarbonization. For us in Nigeria, the enclave economy we have, the so-called goose that lays the golden egg is about to die. There will be no eggs. The future is not in hydrocarbons.
Kaduna State, Malam Nasir Ahmad El-Rufai. Thank you.
The host governor, Nasir El-Rufai, highlights the achievements of the summit since its conception. He believes that the time is right to expand on all it has built.
So far, Your Excellency, Kaduna has moved to the 3rd or 4th position nationwide in terms of internally generated revenue from number 14. Last year, we recorded 50.7 billion naira as IGR. We also signed agreements with Pasianas to open the first ShopRite in our state at the Galaxy Mall, which Mr. Vice President will recall you laid the foundation stone some years back with UAC as the partners. UAC couldn't progress, so we had to get another partner, but now is a reality by the grace of God. We also started work on 2 agro-allied economic zones that will all be powered with renewable energy, solar power, which we know, Mr. Vice President, you are very passionate about. One of them is a 15 billion naira green economic zone, which is being executed as we speak. We hope that you'll be able to come back next year for KAD INVEST 7.0 to commission that. We started our urban renewal programs, starting with Kaduna, then Zaria. Now we are very busy in Kafanchan. And overall, we are spending about 80 billion naira for our urban infrastructure upgrades. And if you go around Kaduna, Your Excellency, you will see a very clear difference between the last time you visited and this time. We've also signed an agreement with Allah of Denmark to build the first ranch in Kaduna State. We took one of our grazing reserves and worked with Allah to build a ranch that will settle 1,000 Fulani herdsmen families, providing them schools, primary health centers, veterinary clinics, and all the facilities that are available in any modern town. Our objective is to sedentarize the Fulanis, educate their children, and convince them that they don't have to be moving up and down with cattle to earn a living. They can do so in one place. There will be grass, there will be water, there will also be schools, hospitals, and so on and so forth. We believe, Your Excellency, that if this 12 billion naira investment works, we are spending 12 billion naira, 8 billion is coming from the CBN, we are putting 4 billion naira, and Allah is coming with 50 million euros. If this works, we think is the beginning of the solution to the problems of itinerant herdsmen, open grazing, and the insecurity that has been associated with it.
It's the second and the final day for this year's summit.
Really, really celebrate and applaud Kaduna State.
Established.
At the event, a panel of industrialists from different sectors came to discuss on ways to bring on board the much talked about transformation.
From what we have heard since this investment summit started, Kaduna State is going in the right direction. Why? Because it has provided the atmosphere for investments to come into Kaduna. Number one, in ease of doing business, and KAD INVEST, as it's going, the conversations are going, the benefits and advantages of having Kaduna as a cluster for industrialized agricultural processing is becoming more and more clear. Okay? So we think that Kaduna stands at the center and has the advantage of becoming an industrialized hub for distribution of within Africa, of processed agricultural produce.
What are the things we must bear in mind when we now start talking about, especially now talking about Kaduna State? So already from what we've heard yesterday, and this I've already known, we are ready. The platform is there. But for you to be competitive in export trade, you need skill. And we've looked at AFCFTA, and our charge, and this is the conversation that we're having with states, is, we have the security, we have all the issues, but we need to start thinking about the post-oil world. Today, Nigeria's export that makes salt the giant of Africa is just about $60 billion of oil. That is just 10% of Africa's import. Can we target that? Maybe in the next 10 years. Can we divide that value by 36? So for you to now start saying that you're doing export, Kaduna State, every state should be targeting to export capacity of a minimum of $1 billion.
Issues like making agriculture more attractive to the youth to eliminate the deficit in growth and infrastructure development were on the table.
Middleman, which is the government, will set up the standards and check it up for us. It will be easier for us and cheaper to consume. That's number one. Number two, logistics, I think, perhaps is the biggest threat for the agriculture. I actually traveled from Abuja by train, and it's very beautiful. And I think we need to have the same very good specialized wagons for agricultural transportation. It's number one. Because when we see during pandemic, when the online business has grown up, I mean, I think Jeff Bezos had around $1 trillion for his wealth during this pandemic. I mean, it means online works. We have seen in the countries where they have a very vast network of distribution working very well, and the online trade for those countries has been working. For example, UK has their own royal post system, which is distributing goods for online purchase at very minimum cost. When you are buying something in Nigeria, Jumia has their own distribution system, Congo has their own, which is quite increasing the cost of distribution. So I think online distribution, which is post office, should be developed. I have seen 80 billion have been invested in land transportation road system, and the place I have stayed, I have seen the vast repairments on the road and those drainage system, which is quite expensive, but I really want to congratulate His Excellency and his team. Transportation road, transportation air, transportation trains, especially for Nigeria and Africa as a whole, should be developed very well. And in that case, I believe you wouldn't be able to buy so many things from abroad. And one of the things I would like to say, I have been in Kenya, and they are producing a lot of flowers.
Yes.
A lot of flowers. Let me give you some data. 1 meter square of flowers, depends on the type, can bring you from $1,000 to $2,500, 1 meter square. I'm talking about $1 million and $1.5 million income from 1 meter square. Right? It's very important, and Kaduna is having very favorable weather, not different from Nairobi, or not different from South Africa, which is actually one of the leaders as well in flower production. So I believe transportation, logistics, storage, is important, and
Yes.
once you do that, it will grow up.
To be factual, just like oxygen is to fire, that's how unemployed youths are to insecurity, right? And we are projecting that by 2030, about 80 million youths will have moved into the workforce. Now, if we don't get these youths engaged, we are simply looking for trouble, right? And we have to suffocate that oxygen, which is basically what Babangona is doing. Rural settlers, young folks that are just coming out of school, Babangona have been able to give over 1,000 of them employment. We're looking at these harvest opportunities for almost 2,000 youths to come support rural smallholder farmers, apart from about 30% of our 84,000 farmers that are also youth. And basically, we have to make agriculture attractive to the young folks. Right? The youths have always looked at agriculture as a very as a venture that does not give good return on investment, which is what Babangona is trying to change, right? First, focusing on improving the yield of the rural smallholder farmer, typically looking at maize, for instance. The national average is 1.6 tons per hectare, and South Africa is doing 6 tons. On average. Why can't we as a country? Babangona today, on average, we're doing 4 tons, and we are also constantly looking and innovating on how to get our rural farmers to that 6 tons. And that is the game changer for me. I think if you look at our maize production today, Nigeria is a $6 billion dollar maize economy, right? And we need about 15 million tons in terms of the demand. But we're only able to supply 10.5 million tons of maize within the country, meaning there is a gap in supply. And it's only when we bring in these youths, we encourage them, we show them that agriculture is actually the game changer. I think in the introduction today and recapping some of the things that was done yesterday, we're able to touch a little bit of it on how to make youths begin to look away from white-collar jobs and now taking advantage of agriculture. And I think for me, if we improve productivity, we make agriculture lucrative, other governments or states taking the part like Kaduna state government have taken to provide that enabling environment, we will be able to get there.
No doubt, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic triggered a global economic downturn. This, however, exposed the inherent vulnerability in the policies and structures of some developing countries, especially countries that largely depend on natural resources such as crude oil for survival. There was also a call for Nigeria to migrate from a natural resource-dependent economy to a knowledge-based economy.
Round of applause. Let's appreciate.
The two-day economic summit gave participants first-hand knowledge of Kaduna State's experience and its policy response to the disruption caused by the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on one hand, while showcasing Kaduna to the world on the other. And that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo.